Okay, we're on the air.
People have come in. Call to order and statement of compliance. Adequate notice of this hearing has been provided by posting a copy of the public meeting/hearing dates on the municipal bulletin board, by sending a copy to the Echo Sentinel, and by filing a copy with the municipal clerk. Standard board procedures. Any meeting/hearing conducted by the board is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision. And decorum appropriate to a judicial meeting/hearing must be maintained at all times. Meeting cutoff. Announcements is made that as a matter of procedure, it is the intention of the zoning board of adjustment not to continue any matter past 10:30 p.m. at any regular or special meeting/hearing of the board unless a motion is passed by the members then present to extend the meeting/hearing to a later specified cutoff time. Electronic devices. All in attendance are asked to mute cell phones or any electronic devices as to not interrupt the proceedings. And this is where we all check our stick. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Aronio.
Here.
Mr. Giannakis.
Here.
Mr. Rosenberg is excused this evening. Mr. Watts.
Here.
Mr. Zadrozny.
Here.
Mr. White.
Here.
Mr. Zawartke.
Here.
Vice Chairman Grosskopf
Here.
will be, and Vice Chairman Grosskopf will be our acting chairman, as Chairman Correct is recused this evening. Thank you. Just a reminder, just a point of order before we move on. Board members, please all remember to speak clearly into the microphones, okay, so that the public can hear. And members of the public, please keep conversations. Literally, don't have conversations, because the microphones all pick that up, unfortunately, so it's hard for us to, so everybody can just keep it quiet. Thank you.
Application preliminary and final major site plan/use variance/bulk variances carried from 11/13/25, 12/16/25, and 1/20/26. Block 12304, Lot 1, Zone P, 1891A Long Hill Road, application number 25-17Z, New York SMSA Limited Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless. Applicant proposes to install a 104-foot tall monopole and emergency backup generator.
Yes, Happy New Year, everybody. Frank Ferraro, as you indicated, Mr. Chairman, back on the continuation from the previous hearing from last year. We left it off last time where we got through our professional engineer, Mr. Ludis, who went through the site plan. We didn't open it up to the public. There were some comments from the board and the public, which we incorporated into our plans and submitted in advance of this meeting. So unless there's some preliminary matters that the board needs to take care of, we would call our professional engineer back to review the plans that were submitted and to go over the changes that were made. Perhaps we can do that before we open it up to the public for questions on all Mr. Lewis's testimony.
Sure. But before you get started, my name is Yolanta Maziarz. I'm the new board attorney. I was just appointed on January 20th. We have become aware that this application has an objector. So if you wouldn't mind, I would like for the attorney for the objectors to put his appearance on the record and tell the board who his clients are.
Members of the board, good evening. Good to be back here in Long Hill Township, right down the road from my office. Rob Simon from Herald Law. I am here on behalf of various property owners in the vicinity of this project. I will read them off to you. Shane and Stephen Daly, 29 The Crescent, Millington. Victor and Jennifer McGwell, 26 The Crescent in Millington. Mark and Rose Eulenbrush, excuse me for the pronunciation, 26A The Crescent in Millington. Ron Sachs, 1893 Long Hill Road, Millington. And Pam Ogans and Ray Monahan, 36 The Crescent in Millington. I will be happy to supply the board with a formal letter of representation, of course, to substantiate what I just stated. I have also made my clients who I've just named aware of the rule that while at the appropriate time in the proceedings, should they wish to provide testimony, they certainly would be permitted to do so either through me or otherwise, but that under the rules that we all comply and abide with, that any cross-examination or questions they may want to ask of any witness throughout the proceeding would be done through my voice. So.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And I have spoken to Mr. Ferrero, who has been very kind in providing me with materials that I've asked him kindly to provide. So, thanks.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I understand the board has also retained an RF consultant? Okay,
Yes.
so is that something that also needs to be?
Yes,
put
yes,
on the
please. If you
record?
can please state your name for the record.
My name is Paul Rowe. I'm with Hoplite Communications,
Thank you.
an RF expert.
And Peter Lupo, I'm a telecommunications attorney, lawyer, FCC, specializing in that area of law.
Okay, thank you.
We need to swear in Joe, our engineer, as well. Liz would, I believe, remain sworn, correct?
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Okay, so everyone who needs to be sworn in, please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give with regard to this application will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if there are no other comments, Mr. Chairman, we call Mr. Ludis back to testify to the revisions to the site plan. Thank you.
Yep, good evening.
Mr. Ludis re-sworn. He was sworn at the prior meeting, but,
And do you understand that you are still under oath?
I do.
Thank you.
and Mr. Ludis, you are a New Jersey licensed professional engineer, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And your license is still current?
Yes.
Okay. And you have prepared the revised site plans that were submitted to the board in advance of this meeting, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the last revision date on those plans?
That is December 5th, 2025.
I'm going to mark them collectively if they're as A5, and just ask Mr. Ludis to refer to each sheet number as he moves through the set.
Sure.
Well, they were submitted 10 days prior. Do we need to mark them as exhibits?
I believe we marked the last set of
Okay.
plans, just so
I think we,
consistency's sake.
Okay.
I think we should. And can you please state for the record what the date is on these plans?
Yes, this is revision 3 dated December 5th, 2025.
Thank you.
How many sheets again?
We have 8 sheets here physically present. I cannot recall if there are any additional sheets in the full set, but I believe this is the full set. I think they were all submitted a few weeks back in hard copy.
Consisting of 8 sheets, T1 through C6. Last revision date 12/5/25. Mr. Ludis, these plans were prepared by you or?
Cool.
These plans were prepared by you or on your supervision, is that correct?
Yes, these are prepared by my firm.
Once again, referring to the sheet number, could you please go through the changes that were made to the plan for the last time?
Yes, the main changes are pertinent to sheet C1, the site plan. Based on some commentary and ongoing feedback through the review process, we made a couple of updates to the layout at grade. The monopole location proposed has remained unchanged. However, we did relocate the proposed generator location to be greater than the minimum 75-foot setback from the residential lot line to the southeast. We adjusted the fence based on that change to maintain required clearances by code. And we also made some slight adjustments to the utility backboard in order to, again, stay within required code clearance parameters. Additionally, we proposed some landscaping. Right now, we have 2 proposed junipers spaced at 10 foot on center. Still subject to further coordination and input from the board's review, if applicable. But it's our opinion that that should be adequate to provide some buffer there aesthetically for the ground equipment. That's pretty much the only change for the entire design from our last meeting in November.
And Mr. Ludis, as you indicated, you eliminated the variance for the setback to the generator pad, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So 75 feet is the minimum?
Yes.
Required by code, and what are we proposing now?
We are showing 76 foot 7 inches to the generator from the residential outline.
Mr. Chairman, no additional questions. That encompasses the changes that were made to the plan from last time.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Open it to the public, to the
Anybody from-
objector's attorney.
The
Objector's attorney, if you have any
Where did you, there you are. Do you have
questions.
any questions?
To share.
No, why don't, if you're answering the question, you should keep the microphone.
Sure.
You have to reach his, might as well.
No, technology. They have to turn it on.
Did you try unplugging it and plugging it back in?
This is what engineers are for.
Oh, we got power. In business.
How many board professionals does it take to figure that out?
That was super fun. Okay,
No, most impressive is it's the lawyers that figured it out.
that's right.
It actually was the planner.
Oh, was it the
but I was told by the lawyer that I was incorrect.
Just for the
I
record.
was trying to give the lawyers some credit.
Just for the record.
That's right. Good try, good try. Mr. Ludis, how do you spell your last name?
It's Ludas.
And, Mr. Ludis, are you a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey?
Yes.
Okay, and I don't see your name or your initials anywhere on this site plan marked as A5. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, my colleague, Krup Kolandaivilu, is my vice president of my division. He's the engineer of record on this particular design.
So you're not the engineer of record. So did you participate in the creation of these plans?
I do. I oversee, I help with review, I provide design input. I help the team, basically.
Okay, so did you, usually in engineering plans that I'm familiar with, there is the professional who prepares the plans, whose name is affixed to the plans, and there's a seal, which is in this case, that's the colleague that you're referring to, I'm guessing.
Yes.
And usually, there's a notation as to who reviewed the plans in the office, and I don't see any reference to your initials anywhere on these plans. So are you saying that you just oversaw the development of these plans by your colleague?
Yes, we have a fairly rigorous review process where multiple engineers and design managers review, and I contributed to that review process.
When you say you contributed to the review process, to what extent? When were you first involved in this project, sir?
I can't recall. This project has been going on for some time, fairly early on in the process.
And did you participate in any of the drafting?
Not directly, no.
And did you participate in the creation of the zoning information that is contained on C1 of these plans?
I did not develop that personally, no.
Did you review the ordinance that resulted in the zoning information that is set forth on these plans?
I did review the zoning ordinance briefly, yes.
When you say briefly, did you review it to confirm the accuracy of the information that's contained in the zoning information?
Personally, no, not to a deep level. However, my colleagues have,
Okay.
and I've confirmed that.
And with regard to there are notes on this plan, and on C1, note number 5, it states, this plan is based on a survey prepared in the field by Control Point Associates, Inc. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, did you create that note or any of the notes on these plans?
Did I create the note
Yes.
personally?
Yes.
No, I did not.
Okay. And then number 6, it goes on to state the survey was prepared without the benefit of a title report and is subject to the restrictions, covenants, and/or easements that may be contained therein. You see that note?
I
On
do.
C1?
Yes.
Did you create that note?
No, I did not personally create the notes that are shown on C1.
And with regard to the information on notes 5 and 6, did you review the survey that was referenced on these plans?
I have reviewed the survey.
And have you reviewed the title report or a title report in connection with this property?
No, I have not.
So you have no idea whether there's any deed restrictions that impact the use of this property, correct?
I'm not personally aware of any deed restrictions.
Are you aware whether anyone on the development team did a title investigation to determine whether there's any deed restrictions impacting on the use of this property?
I'm not aware. I would have to check with the people involved to see if that was conducted.
With regard to your participation on this application, so you work for N, B, and C?
Yes.
What percentage of work does M, B, and C receive from wireless carriers?
That is not something that I know off the top of my head. I would estimate it at about 50%.
And the work that you perform, what's the percentage of engineering work that you perform that come from wireless carrier work?
Probably around 50%.
And you've never testified in opposition to a wireless telecommunications application, correct?
In opposition to?
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay. And have you ever served as a municipal planning board, board of adjustments consultant in the state of New Jersey with regard to a wireless telecommunications application?
No, I have not.
And you've testified for Verizon on numerous occasions in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I have.
Okay, more than 100?
No, probably not.
Okay. but more than 50?
I have not kept track.
Okay. Of the times that you've testified on behalf of Verizon for a wireless telecommunications application, were they mostly for a monopole configuration similar to what we have here in Long Hill?
No, the majority of them would be rooftop co-locations, but I have testified on proposed monopole sites.
And where have you testified for proposed monopole sites on behalf of Verizon? In New Jersey?
I cannot recall.
Okay. Do you recall approximately the last time you provided that kind of testimony on behalf of Verizon?
On behalf of
for a monopole?
Verizon, it's been a few years. I can't remember.
More than 10 years?
No, not more than 10 years.
Yeah, and you don't remember what town it was?
I do not remember, no.
And are you aware whether there's been, in the last 50 years, any prior development application concerning this property or the firehouse property across the street?
I'm not entirely sure that. Can you ask that question again?
Sure.
Please?
In the last 50, well, maybe I phrased it incorrectly. Are you aware of a development application that was brought before the municipality, planning board, board of adjustment in the last 50 years concerning this property or the firehouse property across the street?
I am not aware, no.
And when was the last time you were at the site?
Again, this project has been going on for some time. I do not remember. Sometime in last year.
Okay, so you have not been to the site since the application commenced hearings, correct?
Correct.
And you were not at the site since the site plan was revised per your testimony this evening, correct?
That is correct.
And have you ever been to the site when the site was in operation?
In terms of?
In terms of activity?
No. Not entirely. You mean fire department activity, I presume?
Any activity?
No.
Do you have any independent information or knowledge as to activity that goes on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis at this property?
No.
And you understand that as part of the applicant's obligations, they are required to appear before this board for both preliminary and final major site plan approval, correct?
Yes.
And neither you nor your office performed any type of stormwater analysis for this site, correct?
To my knowledge, that has not yet been a requirement. We will certainly provide that if it is requested or required.
Okay, that's not what I asked you. I asked you, you have not to date performed that investigation or analysis, correct?
Correct.
And to date, you have not performed any environmental assessment of this property, correct?
That is correct.
And you did not prepare, or I'm sorry, the applicant did not prepare and submit any type of environmental impact statement, either by you or anyone else, correct?
I know that we did not. I cannot speak to whether there has been one prepared, but I do not believe so.
Are you aware whether there's any type of environmental investigation or contamination at this site?
I'm not
either
aware.
by way of a phase one or a preliminary assessment?
I'm not aware.
And with regard to the surrounding area, do you have any independent knowledge of the types of uses that currently exist in the area, let's say within 200 feet to 500 feet of this property?
No, that is beyond the scope of my engineering contract.
And with regard to your engineering contract, have you actually seen, you call it, or I may call it a contract, a lease or some sort of agreement or even an LOI for the use of this property by the fire company?
I have not personally reviewed it, no.
And just have, and I apologize if I'm not an engineer, but can you just clarify for me, based on A5, the most recent plans, what's the closest distance from the fence for the compound and the Commerce Street right-of-way?
The closest distance setback here,
Yes, I want to know the setback from the fence, the closest distance from the fence to the beginning of the Commerce Street right-of-way.
that is approximately 5 feet proposed.
And when you say 5 feet proposed, is that the delineation that's kind of toward, you know, the southwest there, where it says 5-foot compound?
Correct.
Okay, and below that, it says 23 feet, monopole.
That is
So-
correct.
So that is that the distance from the edge of the right-of-way to the monopole?
Yes, to
And
the
that's,
edge.
is that to the closest location of the monopole or to the center of the monopole?
It's denoted as to the edge of the steel of the monopole.
And when you have the 5-foot, when it says 5-foot compound, I noticed that there's also, it looks like there's a gate in the front of the compound with doors that open,
Correct, yes.
okay? So and those doors, are those also what I'll call fence doors?
Yes,
And when those fence doors, so they open toward Commerce Street, correct?
they do, yes.
Okay. And when those doors are ajar or open, what's the closest dimension or distance from those fence doors to the right-of-way line?
I would have to look at a gate detail.
Isn't there a gate detail on?
There is, yep, on
Yeah.
sheet C4.
Yep, so if you can take a look at C4.
That should roughly be at the right-of-way line for a 10-foot gate.
I'm sorry? Say that again? Yeah, take your time, Mr. Lewis.
That should be roughly right at the line of the right-of-way there when it's ajar.
So when it's ajar, is it actually going to be crossing into the right-of-way, or is it just going to basically rub up against the edge of the right-of-way?
I would have to validate that in detail to give you a firm answer on that.
And again, no one has brought to your attention any title restrictions involving locations of fences, gates, structures, buildings, in relation to any right-of-way, whether it's Commerce Street or the Crescent, correct?
Correct.
And I'm going to go over with you in a moment the variances. Did you do, but before I do that, did you do any independent investigation as the engineer of the project who put together the zoning information for this application to ascertain whether similar variance relief, jointly or severally, has been applied for or granted in this neighborhood generally?
I personally have not done that research. I'd have to check with the team that worked on that part of the project to understand if they've done that due diligence.
And are you familiar with the revised notice that was public notice that was provided for this application?
I'm familiar that it exists. I'm not sure what aspect of it I need to be familiar with. But
Well, let me So I, just by way of background, I had a few months ago written a letter to the board and Mr. Ferraro identifying what I believe to be additional variance relief that was required for this application beyond that which the applicant pointed out. Mr. Ferraro responded to that letter saying, while he believed that I believe, and I'm not trying to state, the letter will speak for itself, that while the notice was legally valid, that they would that the applicant would renotice to include the additional relief that I had pointed out. Are you familiar with that exchange of correspondence, sir?
I'm not.
Okay. And so you did not do any type of independent investigation to determine whether the additional variances or relief that I had pointed out in my letter were substantiated by the ordinance or not, correct?
Not yet, no.
No. Okay. I noticed, before we even get to the variances noted, I noticed that there was no variance request for what's called a planning variance under the municipal land use law, which is Section 34, Section 35 of the municipal land use law. Do you know what a planning variance is?
I understand the concept of it. Usually the planners and the site acquisition specialists are focused on that part, where I'm focused on the engineering and design of the site.
Okay, but when you put together or the person who you were supervising put together the zoning information, do you recall whether he or she or you did any type of independent investigation to determine whether a planning variance is required for this application?
I will have to review what we have on file. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay, but you're not familiar with even what a planning variance is under Section 35 of the municipal land use law, correct?
Off the top of my head, for this particular variance and this particular municipality, I do not know that at the
Well,
moment.
Section 35 is a state statute, so regardless, it could apply to 555 municipalities in the
Yes.
state of New Jersey. But you don't know what that is, correct?
I defer to the planner for
Okay.
this type of
That's fine.
expertise, yes.
Now, you're aware that this application requires a use variance,
Yes.
right? Because the use is not permitted in the zone,
Mhm.
right? You're also familiar of the fact that the property is currently used for what?
The property is owned by the fire department, and I understand that it's used as a garage for the fire department.
Okay, you don't know how often what vehicles are in the garage, do you?
When we were at the site, they appeared to be out-of-service vehicles, but I cannot confirm that. I don't exactly know, no.
So you don't know how long the vehicles have been in the garages, correct?
I have no idea, no.
Okay, and my recollection is that one of the bays that you intend to use one of the bays for some telecommunications equipment, correct?
Yes, Verizon is proposing to put their equipment in the bay nearest to the proposed monopole on the site plan.
And do you know what currently that bay is used for?
I believe it's used for storage. That's what I have been told.
And you're also familiar with the fact that a height variance, a D6 variance is required for this application,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Right? And I noticed that on C3 of your plans, you've provided an elevation of the proposed monopole, correct?
Yes.
And did that design come from you, or did that design come from Verizon?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, your firm was hired to create site plans for this project, correct?
Correct?
Okay, and there was an elevation that you've identified or that you wrote in, or your colleague did, on sheet C3, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and it has a height of 104 above ground level to the top of the lightning rod, correct?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, in terms of the particular design that is depicted on C3, who came up with that design? Was that your firm? Or was that
Yes.
Verizon?
Verizon specifies the radiation center 95 feet above ground level where the antennas are centered. And they specify that they want a monopole, and we design the site as you see on the page.
So you designed the site in terms of the cabling, the diameter, the width of the tower, you do all that, and that's not from Verizon, correct?
No, that's not correct. The tower will be designed ultimately by the company that fabricates the tower.
Okay,
That
and-
is
And who's that? Who's the company?
that is to be determined based on when the project moves forward. It'll be more than likely a company called Valmont, Sabre, or potentially Roan, or maybe another manufacturer.
So the elevation that it's on C3 of A5, that's not the final design for this monopole?
It is specified that the pole will be furnished to 100 foot to the top of steel, and then a lightning rod to a height of 104 feet above grade.
And everything else will be determined by Valmont
They're
or
licensed-
Sabre or some other
Correct.
third-party
Their
designer.
licensed engineer will design the structure itself, the foundation of the structure, and all structural components therein.
I had noticed, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but since we're on the subject, that a revised, at the request of the board, frankly, that a revised visual impact study that I'm sure will be testified to at some later time by the planner, showing proposed visual impacts of the monopole, also included what the applicant refers to as a stealth tree design. Have you reviewed that?
I have not.
So you weren't asked to provide any stealthing of any nature, whether it's a faux tree or some other stealthing technique on any of your engineering plans, correct?
During the last hearing, that topic came up in discussion, and to my understanding, it's still a potential discussion.
But when you provided your revised plans under date of December 5th, 2025, that wasn't included in that, correct?
No, the concept is still as shown on the current version of C3.
Okay. I also noticed that on your elevation C3, that you don't include any co-locators, is that correct?
That's correct. There are no co-locators shown on C3.
Has there been any, to your knowledge as the professional engineer on the project, has there been any inquiry from any potential co-locator to co-locate at this site?
I'm not aware, nor would I typically be aware of that as an engineer.
But you weren't asked as an engineer, because I'm very familiar with these kinds of plans, and typically when there's a co-locator, either as a co-applicant or even as contemplated, that the applicant would sometimes provide antennas on their elevation as potential future co-locators and show the height or above ground level of those co-locators. You're familiar with the concept I'm referring to, correct?
That's certainly plausible. In this
Yes.
case, Verizon is showing their intended installation.
With no other potential or other co-locators, correct? Currently.
What is shown is Verizon's intended installation.
Now, it looked like that you moved, jump around just a little bit, the emergency backup generator to be compliant with the ordinance. So it was at what, 73 feet, and now it's at 76 feet?
Yes, it's at 76'7".
Did that movement of the generator impact any of the other equipment or infrastructure that was previously identified on the plans?
Just the fence,
Just the fence?
yes.
In what sense?
The fence had to be pushed back to be in line with the front of the garage there. This fence line here that you were asking about earlier. Previously, it was set a little bit further back.
So the fence was a greater distance than 5 feet from the right-of-way?
On a previous version, yes, it was.
And on the previous version, do you remember how far back from the right-of-way the fence was?
I do not recall, but we can certainly look that up and get back to you.
And the applicant's cable tray is currently 0 feet from the garage, correct?
That's how it is shown, correct.
Right? And the applicant's proposed fence gravel compound on the west side of the garage is 0 feet from the 3-bay garage, correct?
Sorry, say that again.
That the distance between the three-bay garage and the proposed fenced gravel compound on the west side of the garage is also 0 feet, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. The reason why I asked you both about
Yep.
the compound and also the cable tray is there a connection, a physical connection between any part of the building and the compound or the cable tray or any other equipment associated with the compound?
No, outside of the cables that have to penetrate through the wall.
Right, so the cables go through the wall and they're connected to the new, indoor,
Correct,
Area.
inside, yes.
right?
Yes.
And how many cables are going to be protruding out of the building approximately?
At a minimum 3. That may be subject to change down the line as it gets to final design.
And you're proposing an 8-foot chain link fence with privacy slats?
Correct.
Okay, and is there any alternative to the chain link that's being proposed at this time?
Proposed currently, no, although there is certainly a consideration if there needs to be a different specification for fencing or any of these details.
And even with the movement of the generator is still going to be 7 feet tall?
I have to double check on the specs for that. It's these things do change. Again, I can't give you 100% confirmation on when this is built, if the generator that we have in mind is going to be exactly on hand. However, it should be close to that height.
Okay, it's not going to be taller than 7 feet.
It shouldn't. It should not be. It's in a sound attenuating enclosure. They are fairly bulky relative to the generator itself.
Does the sound attenuation enclosure increase the height of the generator?
It does. It's
Right.
larger than the generator
Right.
itself.
So, maybe I wasn't clear in my questioning. So is the generator 7 feet tall or the generator
The
as enclosed 7 feet?
Correct. The enclosure encompassing is 7 feet tall.
And the fencing is supposed to be 8 feet tall, correct?
Yes,
As
I believe so.
proposed?
Yes.
And you're not aware of any 8-foot tall fencing within 500 feet of this property, do you?
I have not reviewed that, no.
And you talked earlier about your additional landscaping, and I did, even though I have to admit I strained a little bit because it was hard to hear on the video. I watched it, and I know that there was some questioning by the board as to landscaping. And you responded with the 2 junipers? Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yes, as
Okay.
shown on C1.
Okay, so you're not proposing any additional landscaping other than those 2 junipers, correct?
Currently, no, although, again, all of these details are under consideration. If there's additional input, I'm sure that Verizon would be amenable to updating the design.
I'm going to ask you about this later, but since we're on it with the junipers, if you look at C1, you have this area that is shaded, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and how many square feet does the shaded area, how many square feet is that comprised of? Is that listed somewhere?
I think, yes, it is. I don't recall off the top of my head. It's 5,771 square feet.
5771.
Yep, right here.
Okay, and what's the purpose of the shading, sir?
The purpose of the shading on the plan is just to denote that area.
Why are you denoting that area as shaded on the plan?
That is the proposed exterior lease area per the plan.
Okay, so what I want to know is, was that shading area and location, was that determined by NB&C or by Verizon?
That would be my colleague's scope here, site acquisition. I can't speak to what drives that, but I'm sure that they can provide that.
Okay, so they were the ones who told you to shade in this particular dimension?
Yes, it was conveyed to us that that is the intended area for the lease area.
And you don't know how that came about or why Verizon needs that much of a lease area?
My understanding is that, to your earlier question about the possibility of co-location, it would potentially allow for future ground equipment for other carriers. Beyond that, I cannot speak to what that's for.
Okay. And the ground equipment for other carriers, per your shading, would encompass an area right up to the property line on my client's property to the east, correct?
That is what the lease area is on the plan.
Right. And it also includes an area adjacent to Commerce Street that's within the front yard setback, correct?
Correct.
And it's also within an area that it's encompassed within the rear yard setback from the crescent, correct?
That is correct.
And it's also encompassing areas where there appear to be, according to your plan, some squiggly lines. What do the squiggly lines represent?
Squiggly lines.
Yep, I'm going to show you.
These ones here?
Hold on.
These here? Yeah.
That is correct. There's a whole bunch of squiggly lines on the subject property that your plan C1 identifies. What do those squiggly lines represent?
Yeah, that is existing vegetation.
Okay, and you did not yourself go out to the site to determine the accuracy of the location of those squiggly lines in relation to the drip lines of any trees, correct?
Correct. I would safely say that those are approximate and graphical in nature.
Okay, and you didn't take a look at any type of aerials of existing trees, vegetation, or otherwise to substantiate the locations of those, correct?
Aerial imagery, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, we do that.
Did you take a
Personally,
look at?
no, I did
you
not.
didn't do that, right? Okay. So, you're aware that buffer areas under the ordinance are required along all lot and street lines separating non-residential uses from residential uses or residential zones, correct?
Yes.
And that's not being proposed here, correct?
I think that's subject to interpretation.
Okay. And it's your interpretation that the applicant has complied with the buffer area requirements in the township ordinance?
I would say that the applicant is willing to provide whatever buffers are appropriate and required.
How are you not, do you know the extent to which you are not complying with the ordinance regarding buffering?
I'm not sure that's a quantifiable value.
Okay, so your statement, your sworn statement is that you don't believe that the ordinance contains quantifiable standards for buffering?
In this case, I'm not sure that we are quantifying that. If we
Okay.
need to quantify that, we will.
All right. You talked about room for co-locators in the shaded area. You stated earlier that you're not aware of any co-location right now, correct?
I am not aware of any
Okay.
plans for
And-
co-location.
And no other carrier, whether it's AT&T, T-Mobile, or otherwise, has approached you with proposed dimensions for an outdoor compound, correct?
Nobody would approach me in the context of this project for
Right.
such a
But-
request.
But no one on the team was approached to your knowledge, and then that information was relayed to you, like how much room do we have for a compound, et cetera?
As an engineering consultant for Verizon, that would never come across my desk or be a request directed to me.
Because they just tell you what to do and you do it in terms of the location of the compounds.
They provide the design criteria, and we design it according to the code.
Okay. Did anyone provide any design criteria for any equipment other than Verizon equipment in the indoor garage bay that's being used?
They did not. Verizon did not.
And are you familiar, well, let me ask it a different way. On C1, your own plan, you provide, just want to make sure I have this right. Yep. You provide a zoning map. You see that?
I do, yes.
Okay. Did you participate in determining the location of that zoning map on these plans?
Like
Did you
where,
just-
where
yeah.
it's shown on the
Yeah.
sheet? Not directly, no.
Okay. Do you know where that zoning map came from?
It came from the internet, I believe.
From the internet.
Yes.
I see. Do you know what source that the internet used to gather this information?
Not directly. I know that I've looked up that very map myself from the township and from a reliable source.
And where did you look it up?
Most recently, it was around the time of the first hearing to verify some details, and it was from a Google search, which came back to legitimate township websites.
What details were you verifying, sir?
Everything that's shown on the map, the zoning districts, how the parcels are defined by the zoning map,
It
all
looked-
the particulars.
It looks like, I see on that zoning map, you identify the LI2 zone. You see that?
LI2, yes, I see that, just
And
north
like-
of Stonehouse Road there.
Yep.
Yep,
And then there's a lot of white to the left or to the west.
white, yes.
Right. What does that white represent? Do you know?
That's the adjacent township, I believe.
Right. It's Berners Township, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? And did you do any engineering work for this project that has anything to do with Berners Township?
No, I did not.
And you don't know anything about zoning in Berners Township, whether wireless telecommunication facilities are permitted in any of those zones that may be in that white area? You didn't do any of that investigation, correct?
That's beyond the scope of my work.
Okay. Did Verizon provide to the township or to the fire company as part of this application a letter of commitment to lease any excess space on the tower to other potential users?
I'm not aware.
And do you have, as the engineer on the project, do you have any independent knowledge as to whether if a carrier, let's say it's AT&T, T-Mobile, wanted to co-locate on this tower, would they need to come back to this board or planning board for any type of approval, to your knowledge?
Yes, I believe they would.
And this is designed to have a height not to exceed 104 feet at the lightning rod location, correct?
Yes.
Is this tower intended to be designed structurally so that it could be increased in height beyond the 100 or 104 feet if desired in the future?
As I stated before, the final design for the pole is not yet determined. That is something that sometimes is specified. You're referring to a possible extension. I do not know if there is a plan for that in this case or if there would be. If the requirement is to limit this at 100 feet, I'm sure that Verizon would be happy with that or amenable to that. If there are other desires that can be considered, I'm sure that everybody involved is willing to discuss that as well. It's possible, but there's no intention that I'm aware of to extend
But
it.
nothing on your plans, your civil engineering plans, identifies the possibility of structurally designing this elevation monopole, whether it's by Sabre, Valmart, or other third parties, to exceed what is being proposed before this board?
Yeah, there's nothing proposed as of today to
Right.
extend it beyond the 100-foot tower height plus the 4-foot lightning rod as shown on the plan.
Now, topography. What's the topography of this site?
What is the topography of the site?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
What is the elevation of this property?
I'll have to go back and look for those details. The last time I reviewed that was November 13th, the last time we were here. Right now, we have a reference to 0 feet just at grade. I'd have to look that up unless we have it on another plan here. I don't remember, but I did look at it.
I'm showing you page 1.
277.
Right?
Yeah.
There it is. 277 feet, right?
That's what it says?
That's
Yes.
what it says. Could you verify that, sir?
As I said, I looked at that on November 13th of last year, I believe, and I did look at the entire area.
You
and
did or
review
you
that.
didn't? You
I did. I did.
Okay. When you looked at the entire area, what do you define as the entire area?
The site, the general vicinity, around about 200 to 300 foot radius.
Okay, so within a 200 to 300 foot radius, you identified ground elevations of surrounding properties?
Yes.
Is that depicted anywhere on your site plan, sir?
No, it's not.
Right. And so, did you provide that information to the board in any form?
Nope.
Okay. And since you did it back in, was it November of 2025 or 2024?
2025.
Okay. And when you did that evaluation, 200 to 300 feet of elevation within 200 to 300 feet, what did you find?
I saw that the topography was overall variable. I didn't do a detailed report or anything like that, but I was just curious about it from the commentary.
When you say it's variable, what do you mean by variable?
That it changes. It's not flat.
Goes up and down?
It goes up to the north, generally speaking.
So it goes high, as you go to the north, the elevation increases,
Yes.
right? And as you go down to the south toward the railroad tracks, it decreases,
Yeah, it does.
right? And what happens when you go to the east or the west?
I'd have to look at the maps again. I don't remember.
You don't remember. Mhm. And, let me see here. Your site, sorry, your plans show on C1, existing building to the southeast, right?
Yes.
What is that existing building?
That is the neighbor's secondary structure on their property.
Okay. And did you identify that for purposes of dimensioning it in relation to the common property line?
Yes, it's roughly 15 foot off the property line, I believe. It's not 100% confirmed, but I did measure that recently, and I believe that is a close to accurate, if not accurate, measurement.
When you say it's 15 feet, you're saying it's 15 feet at the closest point?
I have to verify that in detail, but I can certainly provide
Yeah, you didn't provide that on your plan anywhere, correct?
that. That is correct.
Right? And do you know whether there's any, what kind of structure is that building?
I haven't studied it in detail. I don't know.
And do you know where the windows are on that building in relation to the firehouse site?
I don't remember. I looked at it a few months back on Google Earth.
But you didn't do any personal inspection of that site, of that property, correct?
No, that's beyond our scope.
it's beyond your scope that you then decided to put it on your plan,
To
right?
inspect the property.
Okay. To inspect the property. So
That's-
do you know how tall the property is?
Do I know how
How
tall
How
the,
tall that structure is?
I do not know that for a fact. I would approximate it at roughly 30 feet, but I do not know.
And do you know what type? Is it residential, commercial?
It's a residential property.
And I'll skip that. You didn't do any type of investigation yourself as to structures in the surrounding area, correct?
I'm not sure I know what that means.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You didn't do any inspection or investigation as to tall structures in the surrounding area, correct?
No, we're hired to design this particular site.
Is there a dumpster being located as far as this part of this application?
A proposed dumpster?
Yeah.
No, I do not believe so.
And with regard to Commerce Street that you show on your plans, you haven't done any type of investigation as to whether Commerce Street has been accepted by the municipality, plowed, maintained, or otherwise, correct?
I have not. There was brief discussion around that subject at the last hearing.
Right. But the construction activities for this site are going to go via Commerce Street, correct?
I would assume so, yes.
And when you have your dimensions, I just want to clarify this. On C1 site plan, when you show dimensions to the monopole, are those dimensions to the closest location of the monopole or the center line of the monopole?
Generally, they're dimensioning to the closest representation of the steel itself.
Is there, when you say generally, is there any dimension to the center line of the monopole on your plan?
Currently, no, it does not appear that there is any dimension to the center of the pole.
And I believe there was a reference to a transformer as part of the application materials. Is that being proposed on the plan?
So that's subject to final utility coordination with the utility company. That's something that would come further in the process. There's always a potential, but that is unknown until we would get to that point.
So the transformer could be located anywhere on the property or just anywhere within the shaded area?
Well, it can't go anywhere, of course. There's code requirements, there's coordination with the utility company. The utility company will generally have preference and/or requirement to where that's located. I can't even speak to the fact of if it would have to be in that shaded area or not, but generally speaking, all Verizon equipment would be located within the shaded area or their defined lease area within the building.
Which includes within that side yard setback adjacent to my client's property, correct?
Correct, although there would be nothing proposed in that side yard setback.
How do you know that?
Well, because that's how we design things.
But it could be right outside the side yard setback, right?
It might be. I wouldn't expect it to be because I believe the power source will be coming somewhere in the
Down
vicinity
Commerce
of
Street?
Commerce Street.
Mhm.
Yes, as of our preliminary investigation.
And you're not familiar at all, even though you identify the existing building to the east, with the amount or level of outdoor activity at that property, correct? You have no
At the
information.
neighbor's property?
Yes.
No, I'm not aware of that.
And you don't know anything about radio frequency, coverage, capacity, DBMs, anything like that? That's not for you.
I'm a
right?
layperson in terms of that.
Okay. And you didn't do, as part of your limited review of the ordinance, any investigation as to whether there could be other locations in the township that, for the siting of the intended monopole, that would require less variance relief, correct? You didn't look into
No.
that?
As an engineer, we are told this is the site to design, and we design this site.
With regard to the shaded area, do you have any information as to whether that shaded area that's being leased by Verizon can be used simultaneously by the fire company or some other sublessee or lessee?
That would have to be reviewed in the lease. I'm not aware of that currently.
You don't have any information as to the level of usage on Commerce Street, right? By pedestrians, vehicles, or the like,
My
correct?
only knowledge is from the last hearing here.
And you're proposing, I believe from your testimony, if I recall correctly, that somebody who's going to be servicing the facility would show up, what, every 4 to 6 weeks?
Usually,
right?
yes, about
And-
4 to
and-
6
and
weeks.
And they would park where, in front of the bay that's going to be used for the equipment?
I have to presume that they will have an agreement with the fire department personnel, and they will park out of the way at their direction. But again, that's probably something that is either in the lease or to be determined based on the preferences of the people that operate the facility.
And you talked about the testing, I think, if I recall correctly, of the generator.
Generator testing,
Right?
yes. Yep.
And you said it's what, like once, I can't remember what you actually
So
said.
they test it once when they first install it, and then typically it could be about every month, but it does vary. It's not always consistent. To my knowledge, Verizon doesn't have a strict working standard for that procedure or protocol.
And-
But generally, they will start it up for approximately 30 minutes to an hour during those routine visits during daytime hours.
And does this monopole provide an opportunity for co-location if the co-location were desired?
It can theoretically, if it is designed and specified that way, yes.
Right. But given the height, there could be opportunity for co-locators, correct?
There could potentially be.
Have you
yes.
done any investigation as an engineer on the project and worked on 50% of the time wireless telecommunication applications as to how many co-locators have the capacity of co-locating on this monopole?
On this particular monopole?
Yes.
That would, I mean, I've analyzed hundreds of monopoles from a structural standpoint. It would have to be based on the parameters and the specifications of the pole, which are to be determined. But theoretically, yes, this can be designed for 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe. I mean, you could design it for as many as would physically fit potentially.
So based on your experience doing these hundreds of applications, you surmise that as many as 4 additional co-locators could be on this pole potentially?
Theoretically, although
Theoretically.
not probable in this configuration.
Why not probable in this configuration?
Just because there's really only 3 carriers in the states that operate for commercial service.
You're talking about Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile?
Yes.
Okay, there's no other carriers that you're aware of?
There are, but they're not very viable relative to the commercial service that everybody expects.
Well, are you familiar with carriers other than T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon that have antennas either on rooftops, monopoles, or otherwise within Morris County?
Yes.
And so if you had, let's say, 4 co-locators at this property, you could potentially have 4 generators at this property, correct?
You could potentially, although I
Right.
think you'd probably be limited by space and clearance requirements at a certain point.
Okay, well, based on your experience and the space and the leased area, how many co-locators do you expect to be able to fit at this property?
I'd have to analyze that in detail to tell you a good answer.
And with regard to generators, I recall you testified at length at the last hearing about noise impacts or the lack thereof, and that you were at, 65 dBs, correct? Something like that? Right?
Yes, per the manufacturer's spec sheet.
Per the
yes.
manufacturers. So my question is, you haven't done any type of independent auditory or otherwise investigation to determine what the sound impacts would be for this one generator, correct?
Up until now, no, although we do calculations to support that at a distance specified. So in this case, if the nearest residential lot line, is 76'7" from the generator, I can give you a theoretical number of that based on the manufacturer's
But that's
specifications.
theoretical based on manufacturer's specifications, and that's not independently verified by you as a sound expert, correct?
No, that's based on engineering calculations.
Just based on the calculations?
Yeah.
Correct? And my recollection is that you came up with, at whatever it was, 73 at the time?
Yeah.
At 64 dBs or something like that?
I'd have to look
Yeah,
back.
my
but something in
recollection is that you
vicinity,
actually
yes.
testified that it was at 64 dBs. So have you done the calculation at 76 feet instead of the 74 feet?
Not yet. No,
Right.
the last statement I made was just based strictly off of the manufacturer's sheet. When we do a calculation, we'll be able to show that it would actually be less than that value.
Right, but you haven't done any type of calculation via manufacturing specifications or otherwise to determine what would the sound impacts or the decibel or dB impacts be if two or more generators were operating simultaneously if there was a power outage, correct?
That's correct.
And the 65 dBs that you were talking about at the last meeting, that's a standard that's promulgated by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And 65 dBs is a daytime noise standard, correct?
Typically, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And an evening noise standard is 50 dBs, correct, according to the DEP?
Yes.
Right? And so just one generator going on at night would violate the state noise code, correct?
I'd have to confirm that. Again, I have not done calculations specifically
That's
for
fair.
this configuration.
And you haven't done calculations for multiple generators that are going off at the same time,
That is correct.
Fair enough. And those sound specifications that you're talking about, that's just for the generator. That doesn't take into account any sound that's emitted by the equipment itself, such as, based on my experience, like humming or some other buzzing or other noise impacts from these types of facilities, correct?
That might be a general statement. However, because the equipment itself is located inside the building, I would assume that the sound would be attenuated by the building itself from the
Fair
equipment.
enough. Is there any equipment that's going to be outside the building within the compound?
So there's the generator, there's a utility backboard here, as well as a disconnect, and then obviously
You have the cable bridge?
the cables, the bridge, and of course the appurtenances, the radios, the equipment up at the 95-foot height above grade.
And the height of the, I apologize, because this may be on the plan already.
No.
So you're proposing an 8-foot fence height. Does the height, because I couldn't tell, does the height of the cable bridge exceed that fence height?
So the detail that we have currently shows 7 foot to the bottom rack of that.
I'm sorry, sir, just explain what you just said, because it's,
Detail 5 on sheet C4
Right.
shows the general detail. As it's shown now, it is not dimensioned to the top. I'll have to verify exactly, and again, these are not always exactly the same. They can be furnished in, as long as they're within spec, so I can't guarantee that height. But if there is a maximum height required of that, based on the fence or any other parameters, we can specify that.
okay, yeah, obviously, I'm concerned on behalf of my client.
Yep.
If you're having an 8-foot fence and you're having a cable bridge that's going to be higher than that or even at the same height, that's obviously a concern.
Yeah, if we wanted to limit that height to 8 feet to the top of the post or even to the top of this attachment, that's something that we can specify in the final design.
The other concern, the related concern, just for your consideration, is that if you have a residential property that's next door, that's less than 100 feet away, as in my client's property, and there's the ability to look down, right, at that short distance, not just up at the cell tower, but down into the compound, that we would want to make sure that we wouldn't be able to see any of that appurtenant equipment.
I understand.
You understand?
Yep.
Okay. Just give me a second. Oh, so we went back and I apologize, I neglected to ask you about this. The squiggly lines that you identified showing the tree canopies,
Yes.
right? By the way, you yourself didn't do any type of evaluation as to the trees that are depicted within those tree canopies in terms of diameter, breast height, the root systems, the diameter of those canopies. You have no idea, correct?
We did not do that
Right,
study.
and you didn't
no.
do any type of evaluation whether those trees that you're showing are dead, diseased, dying, or otherwise, correct?
No.
And you didn't do any type of evaluation to determine whether those trees are evergreens, deciduous, or combination, correct?
Not beyond
No.
just a visual.
Right, and
inspection.
so, you talked about earlier, I neglected to ask you, when you talked about the shaded area and the need for additional area to have additional compounds for co-locators, is that going to require the removal of those trees that are depicted with those squiggly lines?
I have not made that determination at this time.
And I may have asked you, but inartfully before, you're not sure whether there's additional room inside the interior bay for equipment for additional carriers, right?
Same thing. I have not
You
been
don't
asked to evaluate any of this.
Okay. And you also, with regard to the trees, have not done an evaluation as to whether the existing trees that are on the property, assuming that they're not removed or compromised, dead, diseased, dying, or otherwise, provide some sort of visual screen for surrounding properties, correct?
I have not evaluated that specifically, no.
And you also haven't seen, this is a question that's always asked and I forget about it, like how far up these tree trunks go before there's any type of greenery, whether it's evergreen or deciduous, to see whether you can look through it and see the adjacent property.
No, that's something that we can certainly provide if it's requested or required. But no, I have not done any of that up until now.
And other than just so we're clear, other than the two junipers, each at, oh no, actually it doesn't state. At the junipers, what are the sizes of those that are being proposed? I thought I saw 10, but then that's the distance.
Yeah, that's just the spacing.
Right.
I would presume that we're going to try to get some, not mature, but mature enough that they're full and have them be a good size to be a good buffer to start and room to grow, so to speak.
Okay, so is the answer that you have not determined yet the size of these two junipers that you intend to plant to constitute your landscaping plan?
Correct. This,
Right.
as shown, this plan is still conceptual in many aspects, and until there's further input, we are ready to design it however it needs to be designed.
And beyond the trees that your colleague depicted with the squigglies, neither you nor your client has provided any type of grading plan identifying trees that need to be removed, correct?
Grading plan
that
for
shows
trees.
trees as, in terms of your limit of disturbance or otherwise, that right now are gonna need to be removed?
No, as of now, I do not know if trees need to be removed. There's a note here that shows existing trees to be trimmed/removed as required. That's
Right.
going to be per construction requirements.
Yeah, so that was my next question, removed as required. So you haven't, you identify in your plan that some trees are gonna need to be potentially removed, but you don't show what those trees are, where those trees are, the type of tree, the diameter, breast height.
Correct.
The canopy of the tree, you have no idea, right?
Correct. Generally speaking, a contractor who is awarded this construction contract will develop a construction plan. They're going to construct the monopole, typically using a crane, and they would determine at that time if any sort of alteration to the existing trees would be required to ensure OSHA compliance and safe working conditions.
Okay, so I just heard OSHA compliance. I didn't hear ordinance compliance. Right?
think that's
So
why we're here
so you're
today.
not, so the plan that you show here in terms of trimming, removing trees, does not take into account what the ordinance requires in terms of landscaping, buffering, screening, when you have a residential property or properties abutting a non-residential property, correct?
I don't believe that the property to the south where these subject trees of squiggly lines that you're deeming are really the focal point. If we need to provide any other documentation that hasn't been provided, we will provide it. I'm not really understanding the question.
You answered it. Are you providing irrigation for your 2 junipers?
As of now, no.
And you have not done an evaluation as the engineer on the project, whether any of the trees that you've identified or otherwise verbally or on this plan are evergreen or deciduous where they lose their leaves in the winter?
I think we covered that.
Did you cover that?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, if the answer is no, I just want to get confirmation on that, correct?
No, we have
You
not
haven't done
evaluated
it,
that yet.
right. Okay. Oh, when you last, and you said you were at the property, what, once last year,
Yeah.
right? Other than that, you haven't been to the property, correct? Just that one time?
Just driven past it.
Just driven past it,
Yeah.
just, so one time you drove past it?
Yeah.
Okay. When the one time you were at the property and you drove past it, did you stop at the property?
When I went to the property, I stopped at the property. I
How
don't
long
know,
were you at the property?
approximately half an hour, I don't know, hour.
And did you take the time to evaluate the height of existing mature trees in the area?
I'm gonna check again, because
Yeah.
I believe we,
Yes,
No, no.
we have covered trees.
No, I know we covered
that
trees,
specific question.
but I did not
Height,
know, that
breast height.
I have to say, I asked him about all those things on this property. I just want to ask him, in this one time that he went to the property for 30 minutes, whether he did an evaluation, because he's putting it on his plan, he's a civil engineer, licensed engineer, whether he did any type of evaluation as to the heights of trees in the vicinity of this property. And the reason why I'm asking, I see a lot of squigglies that are off this property. And I want to know whether he did any type of evaluation as to the heights of those trees.
Well, I
No.
think the objection stands, and I think council has ruled on it, so I'm pretty sure the board's running this meeting, not Mr. Simon.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I'm mistaken.
If I may, as I stated earlier, these are graphical in nature. Generally speaking, as an engineer, we design the site. We're not designing the trees. If we need to provide any sort of documentation regarding the buffers, we are happy to provide that.
Did you consult with a landscape architect in connection with this project?
I did not, no.
Just give me a second. And you don't know how often the fire company accesses the site, correct?
I do not know.
And you don't know, just because I've done a number of fire company applications, you're not familiar with whether any portion of this site is used for fire training or related purposes?
I'm not aware of that at all. No.
And there were a couple of questions, good, really good questions, by the board and members of the public having to do with a structure like this failing, collapsing, right? And I heard your testimony, or tried to hear the testimony. My question for you is, have you done, since the last hearing, have you done any further review or evaluation as to the capacity for this 104-foot tower to fall over, fall down, collapse, or otherwise?
No.
If this tower were to fall down and collapse and fall down to the east, it would have the potential of impacting potentially my client's property, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, I have nothing further for this witness at this point. I thank you for your answers and your patience.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute recess, and we'll be right back.
Okay, we're back on the air. Mr. Chairman, I have 9:17.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, before we open it up to the public, I just have a few
Test.
redirect questions for my engineer, if that's okay. Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Ludis, just with respect to the fence gates, could those fence gates be minimized in size to make sure they don't extend over the property line?
Yes, they can be.
And with respect to the generator that's being proposed, are you familiar with the New Jersey regs that provide a noise exemption for generators used during an emergency?
Yes.
And other than an emergency situation, will this generator be tested during nighttime hours?
No.
And based upon your evaluation of the specifications for the generator, is it still your opinion that the generator will operate within state and local noise regulations?
Yes.
With respect to the tower itself, could the tower be built to be extendable?
Theoretically, yes.
Can it also be built to be static, not accept an extension?
Yes.
And would Verizon accept as a condition of approval either one of those preferences from the board?
I'm sure they would.
The landscaping that's being proposed on the plan, is this the final landscape plan?
No, this is still preliminary and certainly can be updated per input from any board professionals or any other stakeholders.
Okay. And with respect to the tower itself, there was discussion about the fall zone and potential dangers from that. Can the pole, as a condition of approval, be designed in a way where there is a limited fall zone?
Yes, the pole manufacturer is capable of designing the pole structure to have an intentional failure spot so that the fall zone, if the structure were to fail, would stay within a smaller radius than the height of the tower itself.
So conceivably, could that fall zone be limited to the property that is the subject of this application?
Yes, theoretically, the pole designer can provide that design and specification for this particular design.
Okay. And if designed in that fashion, would then that mitigate the risk of any tower failure protruding off of this property?
Yes.
There was talk about stormwater management. Can you speak to the amount of impervious coverage that's being added as a result of this installation?
Sure. The impervious area proposed for the site development here would really be limited to the pole concrete foundation itself, the foundation elements of the ice bridge, which is the cable bridge from the building to the pole, the concrete pad for the generator, the posts for that utility backboard, and fence posts. Haven't detailed out that calculation, but it would be limited to approximately 60 to 80 square feet of impervious area.
And is that essentially limited to the gravel compound with the exception of the transformer, the location of which may change?
Yes.
And speaking once again to the improvements that are going in the fence compound, that fence could be changed to an opaque fence, whether it be a vinyl fence or some other material, if the board wished.
Yes.
And that fence could be lowered or heightened as needed in order to mask the equipment from surrounding properties. Is that correct?
Yes, to heightened to an extent.
With respect to the improvements that are going within the compound itself, except for the generator, which by your testimony will be tested during daylight hours, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Does the cable tray make any noise?
No.
Does the monopole structure make any noise?
No.
Do the antennas make any noise?
Only negligible, if any, noise.
And then does the utility backboard make any noise?
Negligible, if any, noise.
So assuming that the generator is not being tested at the time, as you said, perhaps maybe once a month, will this facility make any measurable level of noise during normal operations?
No.
Thank you. No additional questions.
You said that the monopole doesn't make any noise.
Correct.
Does the wind going through the monopole make any noise?
It may. It's possible.
Thank you.
I have a question. So at the last meeting, November 13th, I asked you a question about
if the pole fell. And I mentioned Superstorm Sandy, we lost the tower off Carlton Road, and what would happen if that happened again? Like, what would be the outcome? I think we're talking about that now, and this is something that hasn't come up. It was mentioned earlier in the meeting with the objector attorney.
Yes.
Is that new information that you have, or did you know about that previously? When I say that, I'm talking about the design of the tower, where if the tower fell, it would not reach the adjacent property, the neighbor property.
Yes,
house
so
in particular.
this is a practice that structural engineers and designers in our industry use, something that I know of, that I've known of, and it is something that, as I stated earlier, the pole design is not yet determined, but in the future, when that's delegated to another engineer to design it, it can be requested that there be a fall zone design per their specification, and that is what that engineer would furnish for Verizon when that is ordered.
Okay. The reason why I ask is because I think that question was asked of you earlier, if you did any more research on this topic, and the answer is no, but yet it wasn't mentioned in the last meeting or.
Yeah, I did this
or earlier in
research,
this meeting.
yeah, like 10 years ago, maybe, I don't know. I've done it a long time ago.
So can you just describe what happens if there's a failure and that pole comes down, so it doesn't reach the neighbor house or property?
So it would be mitigated to not reach the neighbor's property. In that event, there would be theoretical. The calculation is done by the structural engineer to design effectively a weak point in the structure, such that if there were an extreme event that would cause overloading to the point of an actual structural failure, it would fail at a point at a height on the tower that the tower would effectively almost crumple per se, and not just fall over from the base,
Okay.
but rather fall down in shorter sections within a designed limited area.
Thank you. And that's theoretical. In actuality, has that happened and has that been tested?
I have to do additional research. I have to assume that yes, it has been tested, and I can validate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or not only tested, but actually did that occur in reality?
That's a hard thing to say, because in reality, when we design and analyze structures, there are very conservative loading values, and then there are also conservative factors of safety, and then there are also variances in material specifications. So
I just
What-
want to know
I
if
think the
if it
question-
works. Does
yeah.
it work, or has it ever worked
That's right.
in reality?
Are you aware of a situation where?
I'd have to
Towers
research
fail.
that more extensively to tell you that definitively.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. You said that this would possibly be designed where there'd be a weak point in the cell tower where it would give way if there was type of storm or a high wind. So let's just say it was midpoint, halfway theoretically.
Yep.
That would snap off and not reach the house is what you're saying.
That's not exactly how it would be designed. Effectively, the way that one would specify this design would be to say, we want a fall radius of X feet. And then the designer would design and analyze it such that the failure point or points on the monopole would lead to that failure, basically.
So in theory, if it was halfway up, which would be approximately 50 feet, it would fall within 50 feet. It wouldn't go 100 feet, obviously.
Approximately. There's more to it than that, but yeah, basically, yes.
Unless there was like 100-mile-an-hour winds, it would snap and it could possibly go 100 or 200 feet, which would hit the house.
Maybe. That's a lot of hard things to figure out. As engineers, we come up with conservative criteria and we analyze it so that those sorts of X factors are mitigated.
I'm just trying to relate to a branch off a tree. I don't know if it's similar or whatever. It was
understood.
a lot heavier than, I've seen branches crack off of trees that were 25 feet up and it blew more than 100 feet.
Yeah, we can get very deep into the
Yeah.
technicalities of it, but the materials themselves, for example, like if I have a steel that is ASTM A36, the minimum yield strength of that steel is 36 kilopounds per square inch. In reality, when they fabricate those steel, that's the minimum. Sometimes it's maybe 50. And so if I analyze it for 36, but it's really 50, it's probably not going to fail anyway when it sees those loads. So there are a lot of other variables that are in play here, but the mathematics and the physics involved with the calculations, like I said, based off of a specified radius, you would design and analyze to that per the conservative criteria, and then you would expect that to be the result in the event that there were loading enough to reach that failure point.
Very good.
Mr. Simon has 2 questions.
Sorry. You can keep stuff here, it's fine. It's fine. Mr. Ferraro asked you a question about minimizing the size of the fence gates. Okay?
Yes.
To what extent are you minimizing the size, and how does that correspond to the distance from the ajar gate to the right-of-way? So in other words, if you reduce the size, which I think is where you're going, by how much are you reducing the size? And after you reduce the size, when you open the gate, how far is the gate from the right-of-way?
That is to be determined. If we're going to reduce the size, we would, as we stated before, effectively, when you open that gate today, it would be right up against the right-of-way line. We would reduce that. In this particular instance, as you can see, the dual swinging gate here is really typically used for vehicular access, but in this case, there's no reason to drive a vehicle into this. We could theoretically make this gate as narrow as would fit the generator through the gate, really. There's really not an exact reason to have the gate as wide as it is currently depicted.
Yeah, but that's TBD, to be determined.
Yeah,
correct?
again, all of this design today is the concept to convey this intent, and if there are other details that need to be changed based on input from any of the stakeholders, board professionals, et cetera, that can all be considered.
Okay. Jumping around a little bit, you talked about, in response to a question, that there's an option also for opaque or vinyl fencing. When is the determination going to be made as to whether it's going to be chain link, opaque, vinyl, or other type of fencing? And also, you said it can be, I think you used the term heightened to an extent. So when are we going to get that final proposed design, spec, height, width, so we can review it? for our
Yep, so
clients?
a lot of times the aesthetic of the fence, the finish of the fence material is a condition of the zoning decision, as we know, so it could come at that time. And as far as the height goes, I only qualified that statement in the fact that, of course, as you get higher, you have to design and make sure that the fence is going to stand up for wind loads, and there's only a practical extent you can make a fence. So we would, if it had to be a solid fence that would take wind load, we would analyze and design that to make sure that it would adhere to the code.
So is your answer that at this time, you don't intend to propose any additional design, specification, or plan revision regarding the fence material, height, or size?
Can I answer that question?
Sure, go ahead.
Because I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not trying to put words in
No, I
his mouth.
understand, and that's why I
Yeah.
didn't interrupt either, but
That's it.
my point is that Verizon will, usually when we introduce photo simulations, which is when we get to our planner, there's aesthetic elements that become a little bit clearer, generates a lot more comment from the public, the board. Well, maybe it'll look better if the fence was white vinyl or brown vinyl, or, you know, the landscaping, maybe it'll look better if there was more landscaping here or there. So, and we also have a tree alternative that's been submitted to the board, and is part of the record. So we have to see if that aesthetic is something that is desirable as well. So once all this input is taken back, we can make additional revisions to the plans based upon that feedback. The point is, we're trying to be flexible, not necessarily just dictate this is the only thing we can do, but really to show the options that are out there.
But what you're saying is this is not civil engineering testimony. So if we can
Correct.
move on, all of us.
Well, right. But it is civil engineering testimony, and that's why I'm asking the questions. He's the civil
Well,
engineer.
if we're going to talk about landscaping, that's really testimony that will come later from what
Well-
Mr. Ferrara just said. They have photo
So-
simulations, and they have submitted a plan, correct? Yes, according to our
Right.
planner.
However, this is an application for preliminary and final site plan approval. Typically, as all the professionals and board members know, that when you hear for a a site plan application or even for a variance application that implies a type of D variance, that you hear landscape, tree removal related testimony from the civil engineer. And that is why I'm asking this civil engineer these particular questions. I respect and I understand what all councilors stating in terms of to be determined based on some future testimony. I'm all good with that.
Right.
I just want to make it clear that I was trying to ask the right witness the right question, but I get it. So let me go on.
Of course.
You talked about this fall zone design and that would have to be designed by a separate structural engineer and that you have to look into that. Are you familiar, and I'm asking because of the short setback to Commerce Street, right? And just to remind the board, what's the current distance proposed from the beginning of the pole, the monopole, to the closest distance to the right-of-way on Commerce Street?
That is 23 feet.
23 feet, right. So if a car is traveling along Commerce Street and there's a storm and there's a failure of the tower, do you have experience where the tower will not end up somewhere within that right-of-way? Can that be designed, or you don't know?
I'm not 100% sure. We
Okay.
can certainly request that be a design if that is the desired parameter to adhere to.
And the existing, I just asked you about the monopole. The setback, the front yard setback distance from the building to Commerce Street is what? Existing?
The front yard setback is, I don't know if that's technically a front yard setback, is it?
Well, it's
Front yard
over-
setback to here. It's kind
Well,
of-
no,
yeah.
it's to the right-of-way, so what is it?
Yeah, that's 10 feet plus or minus.
Okay, so it's 10 feet and the required's 25 feet, correct?
Um,
According to the zoning table that one of your colleagues prepared?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so, and then the setback to the garage bay that you intend to use for the equipment is going to be less than the 25 feet as well, correct?
Yeah, that's the existing structure.
Right. Okay, nothing further, thank you.
And we can open to the public.
No further redirect.
Any redirect? Okay. Public?
Yes. The floor is now open to the public for questions only, not comments.
Charles Arenowitz, Millington. Have you or your firm done other engineering work for this monopole at other sites?
Yes, we've designed many monopole.
No, for this one, have you done engineering work for this pole at other sites in this town?
For this particular pole?
Yes.
Not that I'm aware of currently.
You've done no preliminary design or anything like that?
Oh, like an alternate site, you mean?
Yes.
No. No, we have not.
You or your partners? No.
We have not been ordered to design a different site. This is the only site, to my knowledge, that we've been directed to design for Verizon.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Mr. Hand?
Good. How are you?
David Hands, 48 Winding Way, Sterling, New Jersey. And Hands, H-A-N-D-S. And just for full disclosure, planning board member, not zoning board member. So just a few questions, I think, based upon your testimony, if I might.
Yeah.
And I also might want to refer, maybe for the land use, town, do you have a planner coming here as well?
There is a planner. Yep.
So some of these questions may be more applicable to the planner.
Then we'll just ask those when that planner testifies, if that's okay.
Let me just ask a couple of questions then. So I think I heard 76 feet from the structure to the residential line? roughly?
That was to the generator itself.
Which
It's
is part of the monopole.
65 feet from the monopole to the residential line.
in your experience in other towns, knowing we have no ordinance,
Yep.
in your experience in other towns, what has been the general distance from the site to the residential?
It does vary pretty wildly. Generally, it is greater than 65 feet.
Right. I just refer to the model ordinance for cell towers. It says, no tower should be constructed without setback of tower space.
I'm going to object, because whatever ordinance section is being read is not the ordinance of Long Hill Township.
Correct.
So,
Can I refer to model ordinance?
To a model ordinance?
Model ordinance.
No, because it hasn't
You're
been
an advocate, yeah.
adopted. It hasn't been adopted
All
in
right.
Long Hill Township.
Okay, so forget about Long Hill Township. In general, you have not, it's been various, it's more.
It does vary
does vary.
widely across municipalities, counties, states, et
And I'll
cetera.
make the observation 1.5 times at least.
Generally, that's a decent assumption. Yes.
Decent, less than 1.5 or never less than 1.5?
Again, there's no actual standard.
Okay, model ordinance says 1.5 to 2.5.
Yeah.
If I may refer to some of the court the cases referred to in the application, can I refer? As a question, based upon what has been presented in the application, okay?
I'm not aware of that. What is that
well,
document?
let's hear the question.
Yeah. So let's just work on height or a variance for a second, okay? One of the citations is Kingwood Township Fire Company versus Board of Adjustment. I think they declined it, then it got approved.
I'm not familiar.
Maybe a
So then
question.
I'm just going to put my objection on the record, because
Yeah.
I believe the gentleman is reading case logs and the engineer.
I'll
Beyond
wait till the
scope-
town planner
It's
then.
beyond the scope of
That's fine.
his testimony.
No, it's reference to the fact that we're talking about something that's quite considerably high in
Okay.
relation to because you testified falling over, right? And you said it should not, if it should happen, 100 feet, 76 feet, if it falls over, it's going to hit something, correct?
Well, I mentioned that the pole that's still to be designed can be designed such that the fall zone is limited to mitigate falling on the adjacent structure.
Right, and I just want to point out some of these court cases, the properties in question considered.
Well,
I'll save it for the planner then. Can I have the answer?
yes, because the civil engineer has not testified in that regard at all. So that's not a
there's no
question for him.
testimony tonight.
Right now, the questions are simply for the civil engineer, his plans and his testimony.
Right, and he testified 76 feet, and that's narrow compared to many other towns.
Yes, the monopole as proposed is 65 feet from the residential lot line.
Right, and in best practice, do you think that should be at least a distance away from the height of in case of failure?
Well, in my opinion, as I stated, there are designs that can accommodate
Okay.
this risk
Okay.
and mitigate this risk.
Can I bring these cases back when the planner comes up, if that's right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I ask you a question? Why can't he show us the cases where there's been failure? Because I asked a question about that and there was no data on
Well,
it.
no, right now,
I just got to his
we're just
testimony.
questioning the civil engineer and his testimony.
Okay.
So whatever his testimony was,
Okay,
if
fair
anything
enough.
was unclear,
Fair enough.
that's what the questions are for.
And that's fair enough. I didn't want
Yep,
to
I agree.
overstep.
I agree.
But I didn't know if it's someone who's going to come for
Thank
town
you.
planner tonight until you just said that they were coming.
I don't think we're going to get to them tonight, but they will.
Yeah.
And I missed the first one, so I don't know if the town planner, did they testify at the first
No,
one?
they did not.
So they never testified.
No.
You didn't miss much.
You didn't miss
I've
it.
got to come back again?
You have to watch the November
I'll come back.
13th
We all do.
meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hans.
Donna Ganji, 60 Overlook Road. I have a question. So when you, I don't know the scope of your work as a civil engineer, but was part of it to take the whole area, take the whole area, maybe a drone picture, and kind of so that, the board could see what this monopole would look like from, like I live up on the hill, people live a little bit up, to show what it would look like to everybody else. I know there's the site.
Yep.
But then how that site fits in with the rest of the town.
Sure.
Is that part of your scope?
That's not part of the civil engineering scope. However, the planner has prepared photo exhibits that would show what it would look like from different vantage points around. And I believe that they can testify to that as we get to that.
Have you seen those?
Yes.
Can we see
I can
those?
give you my copy if there's not one available for them.
Those photo simulations aren't record with the town.
They are?
So they're
Okay.
they're a matter of public record.
And they're on the
Okay,
website.
Great. They are. Oh, there's a website. Okay, great. One final question. It's not for
Of
you,
course.
but when do we ask you questions?
The board?
Yeah.
No, you don't ask
Or,
board
oh,
questions.
sorry, or when can we make when can we make comments?
At the end, you can make your comments.
Okay.
You can give testimony and you can give comments.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Sure, Gangi.
Thanks. Excuse me.
Hi, all. Jeffrey Bott, resident of Millington, also in disclosure, member of the Millington Volunteer Fire Company. I understand that the monopole can be designed such that it can collapse at a point of failure. What about the garage that is holding emergency equipment that is 6 feet away from the structure?
That's a good question. I would say that it would not be feasible to design the pole within a fall zone to mitigate any potential damage to the adjacent building.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Any questions? Come on.
Sorry, Leslie Flora from Overlook Road. You mentioned, I believe, that you didn't study or nothing was proposed about doing a stealth pole or a tree design pole.
There was a previous discussion at the first hearing about potentially either a tree type pole. If I recall correctly, there may have also been a discussion on the stealth, like concealed pole, although that is not a preferred option from a general RF design perspective. But yes, all of these are potential design solutions for a structure of this nature.
Okay, because I saw in the recent submission of the photo simulation, that the monopole had been disguised as a tree, and I just wasn't sure if that was actually feasible or efficient for this project.
It should be technically feasible if that's the decision that's ultimately made.
Okay. That was,
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'm going to close it to the audience.
Mr. Chairman, I would propose, if there's no objection, to recall Mr. Pinesso very briefly. If the board recalls at the last meeting, there was some questions regarding the emissions levels from the property next door and also some distances beyond that. So Mr. Pinesso did prepare a supplemental radio frequency emissions exposure report and would like to address that before we move on to site acquisition. So recalling Mr. Daniel Pinesso.
First name Daniel, last name Pinesso, P-E-N-E-S-S-O. And as
Hold on, we'll
And Mr.
swear you.
Pinesso, you acknowledge that you are still under oath, and you
Yes, I-
understand that you are still under oath?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Pinesso, you gave testimony at the prior hearing indicating that the monopole facility, if approved, would comply with FCC emission standards. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And in response to some of the questions of the public, did you prepare this supplemental report entitled Supplemental Radio Frequency Exposure FCC Compliance Assessment Report dated November 21st, 2025?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so I'll mark this as A6, today's date. So, Mr. Pinesso, I would just ask you to review the analysis and conclusions in this report and just review your findings.
Okay, so the supplemental report was, as Frank just mentioned, created because we had questions regarding the adjacent neighboring property and what the emissions were in that area. So the report that was submitted shows that any structure beyond 91 feet from the proposed monopole and less than 80 feet tall is in full compliance with the FCC guidelines.
So,
And that-
did you also extrapolate the percentages of the FCC allowable limit?
Yes.
At various distances?
Yes, and so then if you look on page 4, there was a table that's included, Table 1, which gives the maximum permissible exposure percentage at certain distances. The highest incident is at 87 feet from the pole, which is 4.75% of the MPE level. And then anywhere else in the area, it's less than that.
So there were, if I recall, questions specifically with distances. So are there additional distances and calculations in this report?
Yes.
So could you just extrapolate on 150 feet from the tower, what that MPE percentage would be?
Yes, so at 150 feet, it would be 3.1942. At 250 feet, 2.9487. And at 500 feet, 1.9575.
And these calculations were done in the similar or the same fashion as the first report that we marked into the record?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And this is in accordance with federal guidelines for radio frequency emissions compliance?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So specifically, based upon your supplemental report, is it still your opinion that the site, if approved, will operate well within FCC allowable limits for radio frequency exposure?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. No additional questions of Mr. Panessa.
Chair, can I ask a question of our radio frequency engineer at this point? Absolutely. Okay. So we've heard a lot of testimony, right? A lot of it is, to me, gobbledygook, right? We're talking about highly technical stuff. But my understanding of this is that we cannot make a decision based on the radio frequency results that he presents us because he's in compliance with the FCC, and it's really outside of our purview, which is great. How do we as a board interpret that and know that that is in compliance? Is that what you're here for, and can you help us with that? And secondly, is there ever a situation where it's not that what's stated? Do we ever test and measure this stuff, or how do we know they're in compliance, and who's responsible for that on an ongoing basis, to go out there periodically or once just to make sure that it is, we are getting the RF that was presented to us in this board?
Excellent. Thank you for having me. I'm Paul Rowe, RF engineer, RF expert, I should say. And yes, that's a good question. Basically, yeah, if the applicant wireless carrier demonstrates through their rigorous analysis based on the section of the Code of Federal Regulations that the proposed site will be in compliance with the FCC maximum permitted exposure limits, then as long as it's demonstrated reasonably and systematically, then yeah, that's something that is beyond the purview of a land use board. That being said, once the site is up, you could give a reasonable requirement, maybe once a year, every 6 months, that someone goes out with a physical spectrometer and does a series of readings around the perimeter residential areas, just something to, it could be a reasonable condition to say, hey, go 100 feet away, 50 feet away, and see if it really is 4% of the MPE or 3%, and then that maybe every year, every other year.
Is that something that can be done on an ongoing basis, stated in the conditions of approval?
Yeah, it's reasonable. Yeah, if it's reasonable, not overbearing to the applicant, generally that's acceptable.
Okay. And then lastly, just for the sake of this board, if anybody else cares, and our residents, just explain to us, really what's behind the RF that would come from a typical cell tower, from somebody that lives, say very close to, somebody who lives 75 feet from it, versus somebody who lives 100 or 200. What does that exposure do to you over time, do to humans over time?
Well, generally, the exposure one's going to get, as the gentleman mentioned, from a cell tower that's 100 feet tall. Verizon's antennas are at 95 feet. So by the time inversely proportional to the distance, the square of the radius, by the time you hit, the signal propagates so much, by the time it hits ground level, it's really dissipated. Your phone by your ear is probably giving you 5 times more exposure. Just being in this room here with everyone's cell phones, tablets, Wi-Fi devices and all this stuff. In this field in here, if we brought a spectrometer in here, it's pretty certain there'd be a higher level here than if one stood like right at the base of a cell tower 100 feet away. That being said, because radio frequencies are non-ionizing, they're not like causing any, not knocking electrons off your cells and your molecules. They're just having very, very slight thermal heating effects. And the limits that the FCC sets are supposed to make it where there's a negligible, like they're barely present. That's what the FCC says, and generally it's corroborated by like numerous studies. There's a few out there that run contrary, but the effects you're getting by being 100 feet from a cell tower are going to be de minimis. Like 1 milliwatt per centimeter squared is the of your tissue is the MPE. It's like 1 milliwatt. Think of like a 1 watt light bulb and divide that by 1,000, and it's 5% of that. So you're talking like, I don't know, picowatts, whatever the small term is. So very minimal exposure and very, very minimal thermal effects in my opinion.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you.
I have a question, possibly, sorry about that. Possibly for you, but also for you, because I asked the civil engineer about noise coming from a cell tower, and he indicated that noise does come from the cell tower when wind blows through it. But with radio frequencies, and you're talking about the levels of radiation coming out of it, I guess I'm a little more curious, since you guys are the radio frequency experts, what kind of noise comes from a cell tower?
Well, cell tower, usually it's the radios give a little bit of a hum. The generator's the loudest thing by far, as they covered before. The remote radio heads, they're the things that send the power to the antennas. They have like a little bit of a buzz going on, but they're all going to be, to my understanding, a lot of the equipment's going to be inside the garage, like inside like an enclosure. So you're going to have be within the garage. You're not going to get any noise from that. And the actual stuff on the tower is going to be 100 feet up. So you're going to have radio heads on the tower 100 feet up. I'd imagine there's going to be almost no noise at all.
So the radio heads don't make noise, just the stuff inside the building makes
No,
noise?
they do, but at 100 feet high in the sky, the radio heads, I've been around them, they're like you hear like this very faint buzzing sound from them, but at 100 feet altitude, I can't imagine.
So the tower buzzes?
No, the tower doesn't buzz. Radio heads are like, they're about the size of a microwave oven, and they're
Okay.
these little, like back in the day, you had coaxial cables going from ground units. They went all the way up to the antennas. They literally, like, the signal went right there. Now, you send power and fiber up to the tower's elevation, and that power and fiber runs into these little boxes, and those are the radios. And then they send the power out, to the antenna. And that I do not believe that will be audible at the ground level.
Can I ask you a question about
Yes.
that? Do you mind if I ask a follow-up?
Sure, go ahead.
Will there be any sound that will be emitting from that site that you can hear with give us a distance for how far away from that tower or the garage or anything you will hear that humming or that sound or the radio sound? Is it 50 feet, 20 feet, or not at all?
No, basically, I would guess, based on the characteristics of the site with an indoor equipment center for the larger cabinets, the battery racks and the network racks, and the radios being 100 feet in the sky, I'd imagine, other than the generator, you're not going to hear anything. That would be like the
So
only
doesn't
thing.
all that stuff create a lot of heat? Is there air conditioning that runs to keep it cool?
Inside the building, yeah, there's probably going to be some sort of cooling mechanism for the summer, something like some sort of, and you're right, if that
Because I
comes.
can hear my neighbor's air conditioner all the time.
Yeah, that's a good second order effect. So the air conditioner powering the inside of the equipment enclosure to keep it cool, maybe there might be a noise level from that. I'd have to wait on someone to comment on that,
Right.
the designer of
What do you
that.
think about
I agree with what he's saying.
that air conditioners make noise?
Because the antennas themselves and the remote radio heads will not make any noise. The only thing that you would hear may be a air conditioner cooling the base station equipment inside the garage. And the generator.
That air conditioner that would be required for that, is that like is it a residential air conditioner, or is it something more industrial? What would be needed?
That would be based on I don't have any, that's not my forte.
All right,
my
and yeah, and I
expertise.
That's a
should have
civil
prefaced it.
engineering question.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Fair
I
enough.
would assume it's just a standard, just to cool
We
the
can
room.
talk about placement of that if we get to that point.
Right, and that,
Just if I may, there's no AC condenser proposed on the plan.
So your equipment isn't going to be cooled?
No, I mean, generally they can put fans inside the equipment
Right,
that
that-
run inside, and that can cool them. But right now, there is no exterior AC unit being proposed.
Well, that's an engineering question.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just,
We can't have counsel testifying in that regard.
yeah, so.
Any other questions from the board?
Oh, I have no additional questions, so.
Mr. Simon has questions?
Just a couple. Maybe one. Mr. Panessa, you're the author of this report dated November 21st, 2025?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and you're the author of the prior, did you create a prior report that was submitted to the board dated?
I'm sorry, just
Yeah, I'm sorry. Frank.
parameters of the cross-examination, is there going to be on Mr. Panesso's testimony tonight, or Mr. Panesso's testimony in total? Is it
Well-
open and closed? I'm just asking as a.
Well, no, Mr. Simon has not had the opportunity to cross-examine Mr. Panessa at all. So my assumption, correct, Mr. Simon, that you are going
Well-
to,
It's just.
No, hold on.
okay,
I play fair always.
Okay.
I was not present
correct.
during the initial testimony from this witness. I do not think it's fair for me to cross-examine this witness or any of the other witnesses who previously gave testimony
Okay,
by virtue of the fact that I'm showing up the second hearing, notwithstanding the fact that I challenged the notice. I reserve my rights on that. But I think,
That's fine.
in fairness to the procedure, the proceeding, I'm not intending to start over, and although I could, not to cross-examine. I just want to get some foundation laid with regard to this witness's testimony for tonight.
okay.
Okay? So, Mr. Panesso, there was a prior, it looked like it was a July 24, 2025 Verizon report, right? You're familiar with that?
I am, yes.
Regarding RF emissions,
Yes.
right? Did you author that report?
No.
No. So was your testimony at the last hearing, I'm just asking generally, it was not based on any report that you had previously submitted to the board, correct?
No, I did not submit the report. I reviewed the report.
You reviewed the report.
Correct.
But you had nothing you were not the author of the report, nor did you participate in the creation of the information that was contained in that July 24th report, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, now, you're associated with Medley Networks?
That's correct.
Okay. And Medley Networks, this November 21st, 2025 report is the first report that Medley Networks submitted in support of this application, correct?
No, the first report and this report are through Medley.
Okay, but the first report was not authored by you?
No, through colleagues of mine.
Through colleagues of yours, okay. And that you didn't participate in, but you did participate in this report?
Correct.
Okay. And I see that you signed this report dated November 21st, 2025, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are you a licensed professional in the state of New Jersey?
No, I'm not.
Okay. And this person, Alexandra Kitanowski, who also signed the report, is it a she?
She's a she, yes.
Is she a licensed professional in the state of New Jersey?
No, she is not.
She isn't, so.
Radio frequency engineers are not licensed in the state of New Jersey.
Okay, so you have no licensure or training associated with the state of New Jersey, correct?
Correct, no licensing.
Any training?
No training. With RF engineering, there is no licensing.
Have you testified in the state of New Jersey before land use boards?
Yes, hundreds of times.
Hundreds of times?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm old, very old.
Very old, okay. With regard to your findings here, in the report that you signed dated November 21st, 2025, You come up with a MPE of, was it says, because I think you testified 4.7, but is it 4.5?
4.5.
4.5 maximum permissible, or maximum permissible exposure percentage. It says 87 feet from the proposed site.
Correct.
What is that supposed to represent? Is that 87 feet the distance from my client's property?
No, from the proposed monopole.
From the proposed monopole to
Yeah,
where?
out from the proposed monopole to the ground level.
To the ground level?
Yeah.
Does that correspond to a location on my client's property?
If you look at this here, I can show you. We have another.
Just if you can reference the.
So
page.
I'll reference page number 2 in the report. And in this image, you can see the location of the monopole, and there's the coordinates of the monopole. And this radius circle here is the distance of 91.15 feet. So at 87 feet out from the center of the monopole, that's the highest incident of the 4.5.
So that
Percent for the MPE
so
level.
that the residential structure is located at 91 feet?
Yes.
Okay. And
But this is this structure here. I'm not sure if it's a garage or what that is.
you don't know what it is? You haven't
It's
done
a
any
it's a
investigation
it's
as to
a
what it is?
it's a garage with a resident. That's what I was told.
And is there any effects in terms of maximum permissible exposure on anyone that may be working on behalf of the fire company on the property, inside or outside?
I'm going to object to the question, because I believe it's asking for Mr. Panesso to opine as to health effects.
Yes.
Well,
Not the EME percentage from the facility.
well, no, I'm asking him for the EME percentage from the facility, the impacts if you were a human working inside or outside at the fire company.
I once again object to the question, because Mr. Panesso is here to demonstrate whether or not the site, if approved, will comply with FCC emissions standards. The FCC determines what's safe and what's not.
Right.
All Mr. Panesso is here to do is testify as to whether we meet those standards.
Well, he's providing distances and measurements from various
Yes, and
locations.
it's demonstrating that it is safe.
Okay, so, so you're providing
Per the FCC
distances and
guidelines.
measurements.
Okay. Well, demonstrating that it's within FCC
See,
levels, correct?
It's demonstrating that it's in compliance with the FCC guidelines. We're well below the 100% threshold. We're 22 times below the FCC guidelines.
No, understood, but
Okay.
when you use words like safe, I understand
okay.
Mr. Simon's question then.
Right, with it, so if I am working as a volunteer member of the fire company all day inside the facility while assuming that the monopole is in operation, what will the impact be, if any, as to exposure limits to that person or people? I am working at the facility all day, all night, okay? I have a 100-foot cell tower, currently with just one carrier, okay? What is your professional opinion of the emissions impacts, if any, on that person or people?
It's the same
Okay,
question.
yes, understood. So then the question, in your opinion, should be,
I think it's
what
maybe
is,
the board should not cannot consider health effects of greater frequency emissions. The only thing the board considers is whether the site will be in compliance.
correct?
So that's.
All I want to know is this. They submitted a report. Mr. Panesso showed me page 2 and said, hey, from the nearest structure, okay, here is what the reading is, okay? That's his testimony from his report that he co-authored. And I would like to know what's the reading or this MPE percentage that he has a nice little chart on page 4, for the distance from the tower to somebody who's working at the firehouse.
Okay.
Fire company.
So it's the distance from the tower to that structure you're talking about, not necessarily a person that's inside the structure, but the structure you want to know,
Sure,
Okay.
to the structure.
to the structure. So
But
how
as
many-
I testified, anywhere around the site, it's in compliance.
Okay.
It's in compliance.
What's the percentage?
If
You were gonna add
the worst-
another part of the chart. What are those numbers? The distance,
So-
I'm at the base, I'm working at the base of the tower. I'm actually inside, next to the bay where all the equipment is, working all day.
Okay, so as I stated, at 87 feet, it's let me put my glasses back on, 4.5%. Anywhere else, it's less than that. That is the highest incident at 87 feet because the antennas propagate outward. Anything directly under the pole is less. Anything further away than 87 feet is less. So the maximum is at 87 feet. That has to do with the antenna pattern itself. So, okay, I don't know, in layman's terms, they have a vertical antenna beam width and a whole, okay. Yes.
A lot of people up watching. I think that answers.
All right.
Does that MPE percentage change, and I apologize if the question's ignorant, does that change if the exposure is extended? In other words, if I am 87 feet away from the proposed site for 5 minutes, okay, there's a percentage. And if I'm there for 145 minutes, does it change?
This is for continuous exposure for any age, weight, height, or sex, whatever, everybody's included for this.
And is there any, this is going to be convoluted, but I'm going to ask it, is there anything else in the area? You talked about cell phones, Wi-Fi's, other devices, equipment that gives off emissions that would contribute to that percentage. For example, I cross-examined a witness once, a radio frequency emissions expert, and I said, where is the worst place, I knew the answer, where is the worst place in New Jersey to put a cell tower, given emissions? And they said, West Orange. And he told me exactly where it was, because there's all these television antennas and other types of antennas and other systems, and he said, that's the worst reading I've ever seen in the state of New Jersey. My question to you is there, in a long-winded fashion, is there anything in this particular area that would contribute negatively, I'll say, to that percentage that you're aware of?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay, nothing further, thank you.
Board members, public.
No.
Questions open to the public? Questions? And that's solely for this witness, correct?
Yes.
Good evening. Yeah, evening. Here on stage.
Hi, I'm Joe Godla. I live in Millington. I believe you testified that your calculations are based on the ground level going out those various radius. And that's assuming a perfectly flat ground level?
I'll let you finish your question. Go ahead.
Well, you also said that the radio frequency propagates directly out. So for those of us that live on Taft Drive, exactly at the same level as the top of this tower, what are those levels at that site?
So I'll show you this. I'm going to refer to the report on page 3. This is showing the elevation of the antennas, and then this is showing the emissions. So anything beyond 91 feet and anything less than 80 feet is in compliance. So you're, there, and then I'll go, and I'll show you here on the.
So we're all
I'll get you
90 to 110 feet.
There's
above
no
the
one,
level.
there's no structure, the closest structure is this property here. This radius is the 91.15 feet, and there are no structures within that, and especially at that height, you would have to be an 80-foot structure within this circle to be affected. So there are no structures
But
nearby
this
this
is a
site.
hill right here, that's 100 feet high.
Right, but there's no, within this, this radius is the 91 feet radius, you see? This going out, right here is 91 feet. There are no structures within this radius that are 80 feet tall.
So beyond the 91 feet.
Is safe, is, I should say, let me rephrase it, it complies with the FCC guidelines for maximum permissible exposure.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Hi, Lisa Wright, Old Forge Road. A quick question for you. We keep talking about the FCC guidelines. When were they established?
1997.
Yeah. And when have they been revisited?
I think they were revisited a couple of years ago, but they made no changes.
Well, it's my understanding that there was a court order, but they haven't actually fully satisfied the court order.
Yeah, I think that was related to the Administrative Procedures Act. I think they didn't follow a proper notice, and it was more of an administrative thing. But that is correct. There was a determination of no further action, no change to the standards, and there was a court case.
Yeah.
And I believe, I don't know the exact details, but it had something to do with the administrative process they followed, as opposed to saying there was something that was unsafe that wasn't disclosed.
It was actually the Children's Health Defense Fund, and they're now taking them back to court because they haven't complied with the court order. But I guess my bigger question is, and I know we can't make decisions on this, but I just want folks to know that,
Well, this is just time for questions
Okay,
of the
perfect.
RF engineer. Yes.
I'll say, okay, thank you.
This gentleman?
Joe Fazzari, Sterling. F as in Frank, A-Z-A-R-I. So I have a question. You said the radius was 87 feet or 86 feet?
No, the radius is, for this
Yes,
particular
yeah,
image,
for this particular
91.15 feet.
So has there been any study, it may not be relevant for your subject matter expertise, but any study ever done for properties within that radius or immediately outside of that radius whose property value has been adversely impacted ex post facto?
That's,
Well,
yeah,
that's
I
a-
can't-
that's not a
I can't
question
answer.
for the
Yeah,
RF
that's
engineer.
not my.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more question.
Hi, Karen Brodsky, Old Forge Road, Millington. So your report talks about the guideline and 4.5% at 87 feet. So when it talks about exposure, what period does that 4.5% take place during? I'm a layperson, but what I've read is it's a maximum period of 30 minutes.
No, so the 4.5% is the maximum MPE level that if all frequencies were operating at the same time, that's what the level would be all the time. And it's showing, representing that it's well below the 100% threshold. You could go up to 100% and still be in compliance because there's a safety margin in place that the FCC set forth. So this is demonstrating that the site is in full compliance at all times. It's
So-
well below the FCC guidelines. It's 22 times below the threshold.
So the guidelines refer to exposure time to structures which don't cumulatively,
But you could be there 24/7 at that level and you're not,
so it's not
and
giving
you're
you
in compliance.
4.5% the first 30 minutes plus
No, that's-
4.5% the second 30 minutes plus
It-
4.5%?
No. That is the percentage right at all the time. Your body is, you're not, it's not a cumulative thing that keeps adding and adding and adding. You don't have others, as the attorney just asked, are there other structures that I know of or other things that are going to add to that? There aren't any to my knowledge.
Thank you.
So that's the maximum.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? At this point, we'll close it to the public. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll leave it there.
Mr. DeLuca, considering the hour, do you have anything that you'd like to bring up? or-
Forever? Mr. Ferrara? Not DeLuca?
It's all right. His Italian name was close.
Ended in a vowel.
Mr. Chairman, where we are in the presentation now is we have our site acquisition consultant who, we're prepared to move forward. I know it's late, but if the board will consider it, we'll start it. If it's really at the board's pleasure.
At this point, I'd like
It's
to poll
going
the
to-
board
it's-
to see if anyone, how late would this be?
It's going to take a while.
We've got 12 minutes. I think,
It's not going to be 12 minutes.
yeah, it's probably better to carry it over to the next meeting.
It's whatever the board prefers.
Of interest, anybody want to stay late?
I'm always willing to help the applicant and the residents, but considering the duration that we expect on this,
Yes.
I don't know that it's really the right thing to do, because we're gonna be here at making continuation motions at 11:30,
Right.
quarter of 12,
Right.
and whatever else. So I'm willing to do that if we have to, but I don't think we have to. I think we're gonna be here anyway.
We do want to hear the public, of course.
Absolutely, we want to hear the
Yeah,
public.
everybody can hear.
Since we just took up 2 minutes of doing that, we've got 10 minutes now, I think that perhaps we should just,
In that case, this would be probably a good break point, I would think, Mr. Chairman. So,
The next hearing date,
March 17th.
March 17th. Is March 17th?
March 17th,
Is
sure.
that okay? Okay.
And that, will that be carried on the record without additional notice required?
Yes, yes. Mr. Simon, March 17th works for
Yeah,
you?
I consulted
Okay.
with Mr. Simon.
And your professionals also? So
Yes.
Everyone will be available? Okay, for March 17th?
As of right now, yes, everybody is
Okay,
available.
then this hearing for members of the public, this hearing will be carried to March 17th without further notice, 7:30 PM?
Nope.
No. No, we still have testimony that will be heard on March 17th. So this hearing is being carried without further notice to March 17th.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Counselor.
sorry, Mr. Ferrara, we're getting.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Could you remind the public that we're still in session?
Well, worse, believe me.
Excuse me, we're still in session, so please keep your comments to yourselves.
I don't think they're listening.
Not at all.
Ladies and gentlemen of the public, we're still in session, so if you could please keep the talking down and exit the courtroom, and then you can continue your conversations. Tom, go. Come on, you gotta use your big boy voice. Get out!
That's terrible.
All right. Now we gotta do the old and new business, and then you can do that.
Yes.
So, any old business? Seeing none, any new business?
Well, I just want to remind the board that in the next two hearings, you've got applications. So we're gonna try to get through 3 on the next hearing in 2 weeks. And then you have the Dunkin' Donuts application and another residential coming up on March 3rd.
Do we have 3 applications in one meeting?
Yes, you do.
What type are they?
Fun.
Easy.
Nothing's easy.
Single-family
Swimming pool.
Like additions, introduction to a house or something.
Yeah, they're existing non-conforming
Okay, thank you.
conditions.
Treehouse.
In fact, are all 3 matters that don't involve professional review?
There's only one matter that involves you, and the other 2 matters, I have consulted with the board chair and the vice chair, and they've both agreed that 2 of the matters don't require any review from our board professionals.
Okay, I have one more resolution that is going to have to be adopted in February, probably at the next meeting, the notice resolution. Now, I don't know, have you conferred with our municipal clerk?
I have briefly. We actually
Okay.
may have a meeting tomorrow about it.
Okay,
I haven't confirmed the time yet, but from my understanding, we have a meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
So,
because,
about
and
the
how are
electronic notice?
so the applicants for these hearings that are upcoming, they have given the same notice that we've always
correct. The
given?
three
Okay.
applicants that are on which is the 17th, I think. Yes, the 17th, put notice in the echoes for this week,
Okay, okay,
and they will be sending out to the 200.
okay, that's
So,
all I wanted to know,
I was
because,
under the impression the statute doesn't take effect till mid-March.
actually, March 1st, so we
Oh,
have to
March
be,
1st.
we have to be in compliance by March 1st. So I
Okay.
just want to make sure that we passed the resolution, and we're ready to go. So applicants moving forward are going to have less of a burden, at least in terms of trying to get it published in a newspaper. They will still have to be giving 200-foot notice, in letters to,
Okay. So I'll
their
put that on the
neighbors.
17th agenda as well.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
great.
Thank you.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.